So we found out recently that G2 was able to sign a new contract extension with their mid laner Caps that was going to be keeping him on the team until 2027. Now, obviously, this is a very, very big deal, a very huge story. So the fact that Sheep Esports was able to get an interview with the G2 League of Legends general manager Roman is obviously pretty cool and pretty interesting. There's a lot of cool things to talk about and ask him right now. And in this video today, I wanted to dive into this interview and take a look at what we were able to find out and what we were able to get from the man Roman himself. Wooloo also, he said in the comment section here, he said, super interesting interview for anyone curious about G2 and Caps. I know I'm curious about G2 and Caps. I'm sure some of you are as well. So let's dive into this interview and see what the heck is going on or how this all went down. Roman did say, imagine Worlds 2025 with Caps unsigned. We had to avoid what we experienced last year. And we see this from time to time where the offseason starts, weirdly enough, like during Worlds. And if there is teams and players who, their future is uncertain, there could be talks and rumors and maybe, behind the scenes discussions and weird stuff going on under the table or just being stressed and worried about the future that can definitely impact your performance or your stress levels or whatever during Worlds. And this has definitely happened to some teams and players in the past. And obviously G2 wanted to avoid this, or at least they're saying they wanted to avoid this. So they're happy they got this extension done with Caps in April, rather than taking this thing into August, September, October, whatever, and still having this as a thing to worry about. So what matters most to him is the players he'll be playing with. His ultimate dream is for all 50 LEC players to become free agents at the end of each year so that players can recreate a dream team to win Worlds. The reality of the market, though, is that if you open the global contract database, you'll see that all the best players are locked in. So, obviously, Caps wants to play with the best of the best. He wants to create dream teams and dynasty teams and all that stuff. Not because he wants to, dominate Europe and make it uncompetitive or anything like that, but he wants to compete for international titles, and he knows that Europe, is probably not strong enough overall to have their talent so spread out. They need to bring their talent together, and obviously, Caps must feel like G2 is the best way to do that because he, that's one of his goals, and what he's saying is important to him, and obviously he has re-signed with this team until 2027. So Legacy Dynasty Caps in a somewhat expected but still unprecedented mid-season move. Caps, the mid laner for G2, has re-signed with the legendary European organization, set to extend his stay through 2027. After 6 years with G2, the Danish mid laner stands as the LEC's undisputed GOAT with 14 regional titles. So crazy. 12 of them earned while donning the colors of the Samurai. With an MSI trophy to top it all off, in an exclusive interview, G2 LOL GM Roman Bajird, I don't know exactly how you say those names, but I'm American, you have to forgive me, opened up about the circumstances surrounding the deal and its timing, the thought of a world without Caps, and the organization's long-term vision. Caps has just extended his contract with G2 until 2027, meaning he could spend nearly a decade with the team. Man, time flies. Is the idea that he stays with G2 until he retires like Faker is for T1 today. The real plan is that he never actually finished his career, says Roman. Caps is someone who really lives in the moment year after year. He plays above all out of passion with an unconditional love for the game. If you talk to him about retirement, he'll laugh. He doesn't even think about next year. What obsesses him is the current patch, how to win as many titles as possible this year, or what the meta will be at Worlds. That's his mindset today. So he doesn't really talk too much about what G2's plan is. G2 wants him to be around for that, but obviously that's kind of implied. There would be no reason, at least at this point, for G2 to not want him around for as long as he's willing to stay. We learned that Caps didn't extend his contract in November because you hadn't reached an agreement at that time, and that he eventually accepted a pay cut to re-sign. So that's one of the big things coming out of all of this, is that Caps has taken a pay cut. Obviously, esports salaries and the money and the VC dollars and all that stuff is not what it used to be. Caps, I'm sure, has had some absolutely insane contracts throughout his time, but now seems like he's taking a pay cut. Was there ever a moment when you were really worried he might not resign or even leave during the offseason? And this has been a conversation going on for 6 months. We both took our time to really refine what each side was expecting. I was very transparent with him. There are pros and cons to signing now, just as there is to waiting until the end of the year. The advantage of waiting at the end of the year is that you sign, you have all the offers on the table. You'll be able to choose the one you like best. That's a simplistic view of the transfer market. The reality is the market doesn't wait until the end of the year. Even before the year started, we were already seeing discussions on Twitter and Reddit about what he was going to do. Imagine what it would have been like in April, May, June, each month increasing the pressure on his decision and impacting the team. Imagine a run at Worlds 2025 if Caps hadn't decided yet, and the 7 other teams in Europe were in full transfer mode, sending him offers while we're in China, deep into scrims. We had to avoid what we experienced last year, where offseason speculation started before our season even ended. We had done everything to wait until after Worlds, but the speculations put enormous pressure on the group. Reddit and Twitter had already picked out our next jungler when we hadn't even made the decision ourselves. So if we really wanted to give the roster a chance, he needed to make a decision quickly, one way or the other, and it had to be official. If he had chosen to leave, of course, G2 would have still made him an offer at the end of the year. It would have been very competitive, but that would have meant starting immediately to work on finding a potential replacement, a scenario that would have impacted the team in one way or another. Choosing at the end of the year also allows you to put pressure on salary by comparing different offers. Although money isn't Caps' primary motivation, we sat down and thought through it together. Okay, let's imagine. Where could you go? Which teams could afford to pay you? That's a legitimate question. G2 is in a good financial health today, especially for an esports org. Thanks to an excellent business department, we're able to offer one of the best deals on the market, probably top 1 or 2 in terms of compensation. Caps will be the highest paid player in Europe in 2025, and he will still be that in 2026. So another thing here, if people do think that salaries and stuff like that is interesting, Roman coming out and saying that, yeah, Caps is the highest paid player in the LEC currently, and he's going to stay that way next year as well, probably for the length of his contract. I'm sure that's his goal. But what matters most to him is the players he's going to be playing with. His ultimate dream is for all 50 LEC players to become free agents at the end of each year so that he can recreate a dream team to win Worlds. The reality of the market, though, is that if you open the global contract database, you'll see the best players are locked in. You can't recruit the 4 players you prefer if they're all tied to other teams, especially if a team has just invested heavily to recruit you with great fanfare. And in the middle of the esport winter, buying and selling contracts have become extremely rare. Teams no longer have the financial capacity for multi-million-dollar signings. If you want to play with the best players, the simplest thing is to bring them to you. By re-signing quickly with G2, Cap secures his position and allows us to continue our work of creating the best team possible around him. It may not be as glamorous as waiting for the best offers as a free agent in a market that is actually locked, but it's the most strategic choice of his goals to win Worlds. He stays with one of the best orgs, with experienced staff and teammates at the highest level possible. And at the end of the year, if he doesn't work out, he can always say, it's a disaster, let's change everything, start from scratch. That already happened in 2021, but in the meantime, this is clearly the most logical decision to keep the best team possible around him right now. Can we say that, in a way, re-signing Caps means that G2 is really going to build around him for the next 2 years? Does he become the heart of the project, the one who holds the reins? Caps has been one of the pillars of the team since 2019. He's naturally at the heart of G2's LOL project. He doesn't hold the reins. He's very specialized in his talent. He trusts the environment to help achieve his dream. Our roster decisions are never unilateral. We obviously discuss a lot before making a decision. Caps has never been the type to directly express if he wants to continue playing with a specific player or not. It's a pretty interesting insight as well. He's always very cautious about that. That being said, he's always open to changes and original ideas. The main goal is to win Worlds. Our goal as an org is to really understand his expectations and needs. We're entering our 4th year together, and so far things are going well. We're still far from perfection, and that's very exciting. Right now, it's clear that Caps is the best mid laner in Europe, the most decorated, and one with the most experience. We share his dream of winning Worlds, and for that, we need solid foundations. Having Caps as a pillar for the next few years allows us to work in the best possible conditions. If it hadn't worked out, can you imagine G2 with a different mid laner than Caps today? He said, yes, we would have had to consider that option. It would have been a mistake on our part to not evaluate the question. The main focus was to re-sign him. The options we could have put in place to replace him didn't excite me nearly as much. I'm very happy to be in the reality where he trusts the staff to help him achieve his dream. Would it have been better to bet on a rookie like Vladdy, like KC did with Vladdy? I think it would have been better to bet on a rookie. Yes, established mid laners are a bit more complicated. Either they've already shown their ceiling or they're tied down by existing contracts. So it would have meant looking for a young talent in Europe. We would have also had to consider recruiting a rookie from another region. These are choices that require completely different logistics and approaches. Vladdy's performances this year are a pleasure to watch. Finally, a bit of a challenge for Caps. A healthy competition that's going to do a lot of good for us. If you didn't have budget restrictions, do you think G2 would have considered recruiting other players perhaps more expensive than the current roster? He says no. We pay our players very well. I have a good sense of salaries across the region, the entire ecosystem, and I can tell you that Caps is currently the highest paid player, and that will remain true next year, unless there's a huge surplus, a huge surprise in the offseason. I don't think other teams can offer better than what we offer our players. There have been a few administrative hurdles, but financially, we've had no issues. So overall, to me, this is a very, very interesting interview at a perfect timing. Again, as Caps has decided to re-sign with G2 for the future, some really, really interesting and exciting insights coming from the League of Legends general manager over at G2. So really cool to hear, and I wanted to share this interview with you guys. But that's pretty much it for this video today. Of course, as always, everything we do here at Sheep Esports is powered by Holy. These are great tasting energy drinks that also just so happen to be healthier than the competition. Check out that first link in the description below and use those discount codes SE5 and SE10 to get a discount on some Holy today. Go check them out. I would appreciate it a ton. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. Until then, peace.